All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6:30 on Monday, February 23rd. We're here at the Oregon School District Innovation Center. I'll call this meeting to order of the Oregon School District Board of Education. Tonight's, I guess we'll start with roll call. Is that Andy? Andy, are you our roll call person?
We're going to try our best
All right,
tonight. So
very good. Katie is out this evening, so Andy, if you could please call the roll.
You bet. Ms. Biziak?
Here.
Mr. Bush? Here. Or Dr. Bush, I'm sorry. Ms. Garrison's not here. Mr. Hensel? Here. Dr. Lakuta?
Here.
Ms. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Pankratz?
Present. Board has a quorum of 6. And keeping board members' titles straight between Dr. and Mr. or Mrs. is a little complicated on this board. So proof of notice, I have the proof of notice here that has been posted. And our agenda tonight, we have our typical consent calendar, typical information items, no action items tonight. Discussion items, we do have a new one tonight, which is regarding funding for the Oregon Splash Pad. And then we have our typical informational items. We do have a closed session for discussion of negotiating the SRO agreement for the 2026-2028 school years. So that is our agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve as posted.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dr. Lakuta, second by Mr. Hensel. Andy, if you could call the roll.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Got to remember this. Mr. Hensel? I think I go Ms. Biziak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison's gone. Miss Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion
I
carries.
practiced this, and I
6-0.
It's hard.
It's harder than it looks. It really is. Yep.
Katie makes it look easy.
She
Yes.
does. She does. Okay, great. So we now have a approved agenda. So consent calendar. We'll go through our consent calendar. Let's get a motion on the table to approve the consent calendar. Well, first off, is there anyone who has any items to remove from the consent calendar? If not, we'll take a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Anna. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Lakuta. Any discussion from board members? I'd like to recognize our generous donations, as always. So we have Jess Odell donated 1,000 orange lanyards for district use. Jill Adams donated $100 for a food service balance. Elena Schinderly, $5 for a food service balance. Kelly Milewski, $50 for food service balance. Omni Technologies has donated $500 to our OHS Robotics Club. Milwaukee School of Engineering, another $500 for High School Robotics Club. And then our Oregon Youth Football Program donated $3,500 for football clothing for the high school. And then Willa Panzer donated clothing, Oregon branded clothing for the OMS Care Closet. So we thank our very generous community members who've donated. And then I also want to recognize retirement. So Julie Mandley retired after 9 years of service, and she has been a longstanding physical therapist for the district. So congratulations to Julie on her retirement. All right, Andy, please call the roll to approve the consent calendar.
Ms. Biziak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Hensel?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. All right, next up, informational items. We'll start with the superintendent's report on student highlights.
Thank you. We have some fun things to celebrate for our students. So here you can see we have some congratulations to extend to our Oregon high school students, Lorenz Fradkin-Annan and Zachary Lemke, who are 2 of the 4 musicians selected to participate in the final round of Madison Symphony Orchestra's Wisconsin Young Artists Compete the final forte. So the competition is on Wednesday, March 4th at 7 p.m. and can be watched in person or on live stream, pbswisconsin.org. So congratulations to Zachary and to Lorenz. We're really excited to see them perform and compete. The next highlight under student highlights is a congratulations to Parker Rydell. Tonight we're featuring two students who are part of our youth apprenticeship program. The first is Parker. He's working at shop worker at Tri-North Builders. Parker assists with moving shop materials, loading trailers, preparing items to be sent to job sites. He particularly enjoys delivering materials to sites and interacting with site managers. So courses that have helped him, Parker prepare for the capstone experience include construction exploration, home construction, technology and engineering, and architectural drafting. So congratulations, Parker. And the second student is Kennedy, who's working as a medical office assistant at SSM Health. In this role, Kennedy helps doctors and nurses by greeting patients, taking vital signs, and preparing them for exams, while also assisting during checkups and minor procedures. Wow, that's pretty cool. Along with medical tasks, Kennedy answers phones, updates records, and cleans exam rooms. She really enjoys connecting with patients. So courses she took to prepare her for this capstone experience include biology, chemistry, and AP chemistry, medical terminology, anatomy and physiology, and AP psychology. So sophomore and junior years, they're the perfect time to investigate youth apprenticeship options, talk with your counselor or Ms. D'Amelio to learn more. And then we wanted to say a big thank you to Mason, because Mason is out here helping to keep our walkways clear. We really enjoy his enthusiasm and the joy he brings to this really important work. Thank you so much for all of your efforts. Your snow amazing.
All right, thank you. All right, next up we have public comment, and we do have one person registered for public comment, so come on up, Ruth. I'll read the policy around our public comment. So District Policy 180.05 provides an opportunity for the public to address the board. We value the public comment period and feedback from our stakeholders. To comply with the open meetings law and to ensure consistency, public comment will have the following parameters. Public comment is scheduled for 15 minutes total. Speakers will have 3 minutes in which to make their comments. Mr. Andy Weiland tonight will signal the speaker when their time is up. The board will not comment after each speaker and will reserve discussion to any items on the agenda. Of course, speakers are welcome to stay for the meeting. And next steps following public comment may include referral to the appropriate administrator for follow-up or placement of the matter on a future board agenda. So welcome, Ruth. And if you could just start off by stating your name and address, and the microphone is yours. Thank you, Ruth. Is there any other community members for public comment tonight? Any other public comment? Third time? All right. We will move on to OEA report. I see Rachel here. No report tonight. And no student report tonight. So that takes us to our committee reports under discussion items. We'll start with Vision Steering Committee. Anna.
Thank you. We did hold a meeting this evening at 5:15 before tonight's board meeting, and we are continuing to talk about growth in our district and what that means for planning into the future for our schools. And we will meet again in March. We'll be holding our meeting at 5:30 before the first March board meeting. So the date escapes me. Thank you. It is going to be on Monday, March 9th in the Innovation Conference Center. So that's what I have for visioning.
Thank you, Anna. Mary, policy update.
Yeah, the policy committee will meet this coming Wednesday, the 25th, at 5:30 in the district office.
All right, thank you. All right, next up we have a discussion item. This is the Oregon splash pad. So we have we've had some activities happening, some new information that we're sharing tonight. So no action on this. This is for information only, and Dr. Bergstrom will share some information, and then we can have an open discussion on this topic. So I'll start with you, Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. So I just wanted to start off by saying that the Oregon Brooklyn Optimists, have been working very hard at fundraising, and I believe they started as early as 2016. So they have been working on spaghetti dinners and selling pavers and sponsorships to pieces of equipment, all in service of a dream that they had for the community. And I think that obviously a lot of community members had, because $862,159 was raised. Now, it's important to note that out of that money, $321 of that 862,000 came from the DNR grant, which is a grant we were awarded, but it's not actual money in the bank because it's a reimbursable grant. So we know that as we incur expenses, we would be able to use that. And so that's included in the total funds raised. Coincidentally, the expenses to date have also been $321,000 because we have had to pay for the parkitecture, the engineering bills, the design bills for the initial stages of the splash pad, because while the Optimists have been the primary fundraisers for this, our role in that community partnership has been really the fiscal agent. We've held the funds, and once we got to the point where we thought that we probably had enough to go out to bid, we were also in charge of that project, or that part of the project. But as you see from the information, or what you see on the screen here, the construction bids came back at a total cost of $783,000. And after we deducted what we've already spent to prepare for the bid process and to purchase the equipment, because you can't get the engineering specs that are necessary for the bid until you purchase the equipment. So the district had to spend the $321. We're left with $541,000, and the construction bid was $783,000. So you can see from the screen that we're still short $241,841, and that's a considerable amount of money to still be short after we went out to bid. So I want to talk a little bit about, let's see, what the school district has done thus far. Because while we are the fiscal agents, we've actually played a slightly bigger role than that in this project. because several years ago, when we had to do some remodeling to the community pool, we took into consideration the fact that the land right next to the community pool was the intended site for the splash pad, should we be able to raise enough funds to make that happen. Consequently, the school district at the time built outdoor bathrooms connected to the community pool and a pump room. And all of that was connected within the total cost of the project. So while the $200,000 in expenses is definitely an estimate, because some of those things were intertwined to the interior changes that we had to make, there was still a considerable investment in prepping that site for the splash pad. And then, of course, the land donation. And what I think is also really important to note is that as the fiscal agent, we've also had to put in a considerable amount of time related to that role, related to creating or working with Parkitecture to develop the design, and also the amount of time that's been put into the entire bidding process. So I'm proud to say that the Oregon School District has been a really excellent partner with the community and with the Oregon Brooklyn Optimists in service of this project. And our contribution so far has really been quite considerable. You see the estimate at about $290,000. And then there would be, because we agreed long ago, back in 2016, that if the splash pad was built, we would operate it as a way to sort of give back to the community and be a part of this particular project. And what we estimate is that would be approximately $17,713 for electric maintenance, repairs, staffing. We don't intend to hire people, but we also want to be able to understand that that may be necessary over the course of time should it become the well-utilized space that we hope it will. In addition to that, there's the cost of liability insurance. So annually, it would be about $18,213 is our estimate. So if you think of what we've already put in and what we would anticipate putting in over the next 20 years, the school district has actually contributed or will contribute, up to about $650,000. And so when we take a look at the shortage that is left, we have to also, as a school district that is fiscally responsible, consider what we've already put into it. However, we continue to be really supportive of the project as a whole. And so our next steps are we plan to work with Parkitecture on any potential cost-saving measures and go out to bid again. And this time go out to bid asking for general contractor bids, because we're wondering if perhaps our intention to general contract ourselves may have led to higher prices than we would have wanted. So we want to give it one more try, because we really want to be able to make this happen within the financial constraints that we have.
Thank you, Dr. Bergstrom. So at this point, we'll just open it up for questions, comments. I'll start with you, Anna.
First, I'll say thank you for the information. The second thing I'll say is that this is just really disappointing news, because I think we as a district and as a community were really looking forward to this project coming to fruition and being completed. At the same time, these numbers just are a little bit too difficult to try and solve just on our own as a school district. And so I guess I'd be curious to know if there's been any financial commitment made from the Village of Oregon towards this project, given that it's serving really the community. It's a facility that's going to be primarily used in the summer months when, as a district, we really aren't operational other than our summer school programming. And given the contributions that we've made as a district, I'm curious about that question and whether that's something that we should be talking about.
Yeah, I can answer that, and maybe I'll look to Andy just to confirm. The Village of Oregon has not made a contribution to the project? Is
I
that
think
accurate?
I think they made a contribution of $10,000 from my memory. I can look at the spreadsheet, but I believe
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. Okay, so a donation of $10,000. To answer your second question, Anna, we did, Dr. Bergstrom and I did meet with village leaders a couple of weeks ago after we had the bids, and just wanted to share the position that the project is in, and let them know that, you know, we're short and we're looking for partners to proceed. Didn't get a strong reaction as to whether or not that's something that they could support or have funding to support, but we certainly wanted to let them know that, quite honestly, the project's in jeopardy unless we find a partner to kind of help make up that difference. So, so I had, you know, that meeting was held a couple of weeks ago. I have not had any communication since then. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that you had that conversation, at least to explain kind of where we're at and what this might mean. The other question I have, and I know that we've already done some things, some value engineering, if you want to call it that, to look at ways to bring the cost of the project down. You know, my personal opinion is unless we can get it to the amount that we have available, I don't know what choices we would have if there aren't other funding sources available outside of school district funds. And I don't know if there's a way to right size this to the point where we get it to within that budget and still have it be a meaningful space for the community. So I don't know if that's part of what we're looking at when we go out to rebid, is ways to reduce cost and understand what that might mean. And then we can make some of those decisions maybe on how we proceed. Because so much has gone into raising money for this, and it's been such a lengthy process. I know we all want to find a way to make this happen, but I don't see a way right now with the information we have.
Yeah, on the on the value engineering topic, I'll just emphasize that the district has gone through a number of iterations already on adjusting the design to reduce costs, and I think to date those adjustments have not materially changed the scope and scale of the project. I think it's still a very nice splash pad that we could all be proud of. So having been exposed to some of the cost or the value engineering that's happened, I'm just not certain that there's much additional that could be trimmed or adjusted to reduce the cost. There might be, but it's when you look at the number, $242,000 is a pretty sizable amount of shortage that we're at. So, yeah, go ahead.
I just have one more. Do we know who the contractor was that built the Evansville splash pad or pool? Didn't they just go through a construction project? Do we know who their contractor was?
I don't know, but that was just built within the past couple of years.
Right. I'm just wondering if we've reached out to them potentially for, I don't know. It's a unique project as well. There aren't a lot of contractors that are building splash pads, and so I'm just wondering if we've reached the right market of contractors to be bidding on it as well.
The previous business manager in Evansville is my neighbor, and so he was involved in that. We talked about the process quite a bit as he was going through it, but it was several years ago, so I don't remember the name of the contractor. I can check with Eric and find out. Theirs is not a recirculation. Theirs is, the water actually goes into the ditch next to the splash pad.
So that's different.
A little bit different there.
I know it would delay things further, and I don't know whether it's an option, but we were able to get the 32-1 from the DNR grant, is it possible to apply for any additional funds through that same granting process?
I don't think it's possible through the DNR, but we did apply for another T-Mobile grant. We got news today that we didn't get it. However, we are resubmitting. So we're going to keep trying.
So it's on a quarterly, and so then what would the timing be for that if we were to get it second time?
So it's due in March, so I would think we would hear in May, because this one was due in January or December, and we've just heard out today, so about 2 months after the deadline. And there is a question on there whether you submitted prior, so in my mind, that's a indication that you might have to try more than once.
Right. Then my other question is, what's the possibility for a phased approach? You know, construct as much as we have funding for, and then look for additional input.
I'd have to give that some thought. My immediate reaction is not great, but let me give that some thought.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be creative because obviously the school district does not have enough to cover that that gap, and without having someone else step up and contribute that much money, just looking for ways to be creative.
Totally appreciate that. One of the issues we have is we actually have the structures, as Dr. Bergstrom said. So, yeah, we have to give that a little bit more thought.
Do we have, we've been talking about this for quite a while, and I remember conversations we had maybe 2 years ago, kind of getting an idea of what we thought this would cost. And we have a sizable difference, I think, in what we thought this would cost and what it appears to be costing. Have there been any, I mean, I was just curious if there was any discussion, or did it come up? Have material costs changed that much in the last year or two? I mean, is this something that's related to, I know that due to the DNR grant, right, the materials have to be made in the United States. Is that correct?
That kind of changed midway through, but I do believe we have materials from the United States, and those are already paid for. So what was the surprise here is actually there's 4 bid packages that are out. There are 2 main ones that are the big dollar amounts. One is the installation of the equipment that we already have, and the other one is creating the pad, the grading, the concrete, the deck, all that stuff. Those are the things that really went out of, were significantly more than what the architectural group told us the budgets were. There's actually a third, I misspoke, and that's the mechanical component, and that was also over, like, all 3 of those things were significantly over what we were told that they would be. So I think you could maybe blame a little bit on the labor market, that type of thing, but.
I mean, I don't know because this is not my world, but have like concrete costs gone up? I think they have, right? Because there's material issues related to construction right now that I think we're still kind of dealing with. This has been happening for quite a while now, right? But I think, is that what has happened, is that I know concrete costs have gone up. I don't know how much because, again, it's not my world, but is that some of what's feeding into this much higher cost?
I think that very well could be. The other component of this is this is a very specialized type of project, so there's not a lot of competition because there's only so many people that do this. When I was talking to a large swimming pool installer out of Beaver Dam and trying to get them to bid on it, they were like, well, we're interested in it, but we're booked through summer. And what's your timeline? And so I think that was a part of it. So going together with a general, maybe pushing this out till fall a little bit might help if we're going to continue to have the same design.
And then I just have a quick comment, because I think all of us are very supportive of this project. This is something I think that would be really nice for the community. You know, splash pad's a wonderful thing to have in the summertime. And I know when my kids were little, we often drove to other communities to go to the splash pad. So it'd be great to have one here. My kids will not be going to the splash pad anymore because they're teenagers now, but maybe they will, I don't know. But I think we're in a tough position because we have some very difficult decisions to make fiscally. And when you look at the staffing plan, right, we have a list of some positions on there that are you know, that are really high need, and then there are additional ones that we're hoping that if we can, we maybe might be able to fill them, including the public comment tonight about the vocal music teacher, right? I mean, those are you know, we have to think about, you know, classroom needs and those kinds of concerns, and coming up with, you know, I think this is something that other board members have said, you know, $240,000 on top of everything else is just a really difficult ask for the school district when we have critical needs in the classroom. So I think we're going to have to get creative, and I hope we can find a solution that can get this done, but also keep our eye on how important it is to make sure we're doing everything we can in the classroom.
I really appreciate the updates on all of this, and certainly when my family moved to Oregon in 2016, somebody that we met in the community said, "Oh, we'll be getting splash pads soon." And so to, you know, continue to see not only the passion for this and the fundraising efforts for this, it's really a long time. And you know, we were excited then, and I think as many others are, and you know, all the great contributions that have gone into this. Maybe just a question: do we know? And because just as the newest board member, how did the school district become the fiscal agent for the splash pad? Is that pertinent or not? Or do we, if none of us recall, because it's been a while, I understand, that's a fair question.
I don't, I was just told to do it.
Okay, no, great. We all have those assignments from time to time, so no, that's fair.
It wasn't something I was looking for at the moment because I was
Yeah.
busy building $54 million worth of stuff, but
Sure.
Yeah, I
No,
mean, I can add a little bit of context because I've done research on this because I really did want to understand. So first of all, this predates my time on the board. 2016 was when the board had approved a contribution to the project, which was the restroom construction at that time. And I think over time, it's just, we've taken on being the fiscal agent, we've taken on the bidding process, we have taken on all of the future maintenance and operational costs of this project. So I think it happened over time, and I do want to honor that original commitment that we had to fund some of this construction, but you know, from my perspective, this is not a school district project. This is an Optimist Club project that the school district is assisting with. So,
well, thanks for that, Troy. And that tracks and makes sense, and appreciate that. You know, kind of back to some of the creative options and not trying to be too solution oriented here, right? As a board, as the administration's going through this, you know, kind of in the situation that we're in, that rebid process that you speak of. Are we also considering saying, well, here is kind of the max dollars we have, what can you bid for that price? You know, rebid what we have, and then the second plan is, what can you give us for this price? Because otherwise, I think it is going to be another conversation back here about what the fate is, which I think your words, Troy, where it's at risk. And so, like, I think we have another opportunity to, like, revisit that, timing factors, all those things that you mentioned, and see if we can still continue to proceed as planned. But I think the other thing, too, is, you know, all of us have different expectations of what we're expecting from a splash pad. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, that's pretty big. So, I mean, I back to somebody else's comment, it's like, cut the thing in half and go through phases, right? And I mean, I'm not trying to be too action-oriented here, but, like, it's that kind of creativity that I hope as we're putting together that next round of bids, we'll get some ideas back so that we also don't, unfortunately, create bid fatigue among the contracting community. They're like, oh, here they are again, and they're not even going to spend time to continue to develop those bids. So again, also not my area of expertise, but defer to those whose it is. My hope is that partnerfully the district is able to continue to shepherd forward, but not absorb so much administrative cost of this that it becomes a detractor from the district's core mission and purpose. That might be where I would step in, and certainly I, like my board colleagues, have really zero interest in funding this out of district coffers. So there's my position, my advice, and a few thoughts.
So my understanding is Optimist Club is pretty much done with any fundraising potential that they have done for this project. Is that correct? At this point, is that the understanding we have from them, or where do we?
Well, I don't know if they've discussed that as a club, but we did communicate where we were with 3 of the members who have been really heavily involved. I
Sure.
don't know what discussions they've had as a club.
Okay. If the Optimist is not interested in continuing to fundraise or maybe to find ways to help us get some money, are there other community organizations that might be interested in that we can approach to talk about funds for to figure out how to make up this extra $241,000?
So, I mentioned the conversation I had with the village already, and I think that's part of tonight's informational item is to kind of get the message out there that the project's at risk, and without a new partner or some, I would consider a significant adjustment to the scope, we're probably at a standstill here.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if we, other than the village, if we had reached out to anyone else or if there was even anyone to reach out to. So, thank you.
Anna?
I'm just going to be Heather for a minute because I know that Heather would be saying, and I don't disagree with Heather, but that we have, as a district, a lot of different priorities that might need to come before a splash pad from a facility perspective. And if there's going to be a push to do additional fundraising, is fundraising for the splash pad in the best interest of our school district and our families and our needs, or not? And so I just put that out there that as a board, we need to be very strategic on where we put our efforts, on what we're fundraising for, and how we prioritize those. And so great comment, and I don't disagree, but I wanted to say that on Heather's behalf.
I want to clarify that I was not suggesting that we fundraise for it. I was wondering if there was another community partner that might be interested in doing that. Because you're right, we can't do that when we have a lot of other priorities that we have to run the school district in a fiscally responsible way.
Okay. Any other comments from board members? I'll weigh in here. Really aligned with what's been said. As I already said, I do remain committed to the original school district's contribution to the project. I think it makes some sense to put the splash pad next to the pool facility. We've got the restrooms constructed. We have a mechanical room that's been built for this. We're donating the land. We're donating staff and maintenance time over the life of this project. So I do remain, committed to our original intent of the project. And not to mention all of the very hard work that our administrative team has put in managing the finances and, conducting the bidding, and just a lot of, we put a lot of effort into this, maintaining the budget. And I just want to emphasize, this is not a project that we would be utilizing for instruction. So it's not part of our core mission as a school district. It is a wonderful community amenity that will, I'm sure, attract people to visit our downtown and will help revitalize our downtown, will help our local business owners generate revenue and tax dollars. But I think, from my perspective as a school district, I just have to draw the line at what we've already contributed in addition to what we would contribute in the future. So we're really looking for a partner or partners in the community to help carry this across to the finish line and help us add this nice amenity to the Village of Oregon. So if there's any other final comments or questions, we can take those now. Otherwise, we will move along with our meeting agenda. So Our next item is the 26-27 staffing plan. So we're here in February, the end of February. You've all seen for kind of a first draft of the budget and where we know that's headed, at least the items that we know. And this is the time of year where we visit the staffing plan, and we'll continue to have this conversation around staffing over the next several months as we head into the summer. So who's starting this one off?
Ms. Jonan starts.
All right, Ms. Jonan.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bergstrom. I will set the stage and then turn it over to Mr. Weiland to talk about the big budget picture. So essentially, we want to do this in a two-step process. So tonight is just to give you information and jumpstart your thinking. And then we will be back March 9th looking to seek approval for posting and filling new positions. And so what we do as our process is we take staffing requests and talk about them as a team and put things together, and then we prioritize. And as you will see, and we've done for at least the past 5 years, is really focusing on our needs in special education, because those are services that we are mandated by federal and state law to provide. And we've talked at several meetings that our needs are growing in that area. And so we know that we will need the positions in Table A. So those are our highest priority positions. But then we also wanted to bring to your attention some of the positions in Table B that we are hopefully potentially able to find new ideas or reallocation for, or if we have additional funding, then that opens up that possibility as well. And so a big factor in that is our health insurance. Our bid from GHC came in at 12.9%. That is what we were anticipating, but is hard when we've had 4 years of 4.5% or less with GHC. So we are out to bid from other carriers, and our consultant is working on that now, as well as working with GHC to explore options as to how we could get that number down. And we have a health insurance committee that is working on that. And so our consultant will bring options to that committee. That's a big part of our budget. And so what happens with health insurance might give us some flexibility if we have, the capacity to look at changing the plan or the carrier. But we don't have the bids yet back, so we're hoping to have those in a couple weeks. And ideally before the meeting on March 9th. So with that, you'll also see in Section 1 our staff guiding principles that we always look at when we bring staffing to you. And so one of those we always look at is fiscal responsibility. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Weiland to talk about big picture, and he always tells me preliminary budget estimates. So how do I tee that up, Andy?
Those are all really good words to use to give me a little bit of room, because we're early in the process. The nice thing about this particular year, though, is that we're between biennial budgets, so we do have some information that's fairly well known. But our enrollment is still a question, and it does have an impact on where we land. So that being said, I will start with the first component of the revenue side, which is our 3-year average enrollment, and that's driven by that drives the revenue limit. And I will mention that this basically, we've seen an increase over the last several years, and that 3-year average is projecting out here for this next year. I wouldn't say this is the most aggressive number. I would say it's pretty much an average number that we can count on, but it could go either way on us. So that's what that number is. It's $336,000 additional dollars compared to this year. I also note that we are lucky. Compared to many of our peers out there, there's only about 20-some% of districts that are growing in the state, and for us to be one of them, I feel very fortunate. The second component of this, which is the biggest number on the revenue side, is the revenue limit increase, which is the $325. And those of you that follow politics may have heard this number quite a bit in relationship to a 400-year kind of it will stay in place for 400 years. What I want to mention to the community and to the board is that that's less than a 3% increase from a number for us. So when we're trying to give, close to 3% or 2.63% is the number that we were looking to give our staff members as a cost of living increase, and then you talk about health insurance and all those types of things that are above that, this doesn't really do it for us. I mean, it's much better than zero, which is what we had to deal with for a couple years, a couple biennial budgets back, but it's not some huge, a number that we're going to be swimming in money. It's still a difficult task for us and our other school districts to deal with. Pupil categorical aid is just a dollar amount that we get per pupil. In the past, the legislature has prioritized that number over the revenue limit number, but this year that number is the same number, so it's just basically driven by the 3-year average, produced around $9,000. Our open enrollment, if we hold those numbers steady and based on what we've had in the past as far as kindergarten numbers and open enrollment and those types of things, there is an increase in the allocation by the legislature, so that translates into about $76,000. But again, that is dependent on who stays, who goes, that type of thing, who comes to the district. Special education, a lot of information or a lot of talk about this particular number. This is the proration based on the prior year's expenses. You may recall from the biennial budget that was approved last summer, we were supposed to get about 45%. The amount of costs that were submitted, the amount of money that was set aside to get to that 45% was woefully less than what it needed to be. There are ongoing discussions in Madison right now, so this is a very current topic, if you would, about perhaps actually getting to that. Right now, I'm projecting at a significantly lower number, which is, I think that's a typo, I apologize. I think that's 30.5, not 40.5, not 30.5, so I apologize for that. But that still would get us about $243,000 more than what we had received or anticipate receiving this year. If we can get the 45%, like a real solid 45%, that number is significantly larger. I would say $500,000 to $600,000 potentially difference in what we are getting now. So that's something that if you're paying attention to those discussions between the governor and the legislature could have a significant impact on us in a positive way. Mental health, small difference there. We just had that in the original listing, so we continued it. You may be looking at your bank account balances and interest revenue. The Federal Reserve has been dropping interest rates, so we did drop our interest revenue expectation for next year a little bit by about $25,000. Transfer of service is a way that we have as an exemption to the revenue limit, and it's related to students that come into our district with already an identified need from another governmental unit or from sometimes Birth to Three is a governmental organization that brings students to us that they've already identified a need, and we need to provide those services to those students. In that situation, the revenue limit allows us to exceed the revenue authority to be able to provide services to those students. If you're a resident student, they won't, but if you're a student that transfers in from another governmental entity, they will allow you some relief to that. So that is a number that we are anticipating based on the students that we have this year. Some of those costs will actually potentially even be incurred starting relatively soon, because we are starting to staff up even now because of the students that have moved into our district. And then the other thing that the board did very strategically when we approved when the community approved the referendum a number of years ago in 2022 is we didn't use the authority related to additional authority that we were given in that biennial budget because that was a promise that the board made, but we did reserve those funds available. And so This would be accessing about 850,000, so about a fourth of the funds that we have kind of set aside in unused taxing authority in order to balance our budget for this next year. I'll go through the expenditures real quickly. They're pretty self-explanatory, and Ms. Jonan already kind of talked about them. The compensation schedules for our educators, 2.63%. We have step and lane movement for our educators, and some of our support groups have a small increase in step from year to year type of thing. Other staff increases related to non-our teaching population, but other groups that we have within the district. Health insurance increase, Ms. Jonan talked about that as well. We might be able to reduce that 12.9, but we don't know until we get the bids, so we're looking at that. That's obviously a very healthy number. 4K per pupil increases. We want to be true to our 4K partners and provide them an increase so that they can continue to pay their staff and make sure that they're well staffed. Transportation, our partners in transportation would be looking for an increase as well, so we have always in the past provided a similar CPI increase for them. And then we are experiencing some increases in maintenance and grounds related to maintaining our facilities. Both, if you're familiar with or live in the Village of Oregon, there are some significant water and sewer increases that are happening. Utility, especially electricity and natural gas this year, increases are happening. And then just the cost of maintenance. We've had contractors that we've been working with for years. We have new contractors now because some of those folks have retired, and we're finding that the cost associated with not only the hourly cost, but actually kind of learning, if you would, our buildings and our processes. There seems to be a significant impact in our buildings and grounds system for that. So we anticipated or setting aside $100,000 just to kind of hold even in that area. We've mentioned, I think in the past, a parent square, which is a new way to communicate with our parents and our students and teachers and everything. So it's done in a way so that we basically have knowledge of those communications from a liability perspective. We feel that's a good investment. And then non-health dental employee insurance, this is basically liability, workers' comp, those types of things. Buildings, we are told to anticipate a 5% increase at this time. We might be able to do slightly better than that. It's not a huge number, but we're holding that until we actually get our renewals from our contractors or our partners in that regard. So if you do the math, the 2.9 minus the 2.7 leaves you about $200,000 remaining. And then you go to the next page, and quite a bit of that is related to those positions that we were actually using the transfer service on. So the school psychologist and the speech and language, we both anticipate claiming for transfer service. That's right around that is the $182,000 that I spoke of before. So we also have the need for some special education assistance for some students that have some needs that we statutorily need to provide them. So that's in there as well. So with that, you can see the total page on page 6. There is a small shortage. We have to figure out where we can come up with that. I have full belief that between all the different things that we've talked about, we'll be able to find that one way or another. But our recommendation was be to approve the staffing in Table A as is. What questions do you have for me?
Leslie, go ahead.
I have 2 questions. Andy, can you look at on Table A where for the mental health aid?
Yeah.
Explain to me, I mean, I know it says it's only $600, but it says $50 per student under summary explanation. Can you clear that up for me? I'm confused.
So I think that's probably the number of students that we have times the $50. So it is $50 per student that we get, right? And so the increase is the number of students that we have more on a 3-year average.
Oh,
Times
that makes
50.
that
So-
makes so
so if
much
you do
more
the-
sense because I was like, wait, we have that what we have
No.
12 students? That's
No,
it?
no, 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 no.
Like, how
That
does
would be
this
the
work?
3-year average, I believe.
Okay, so that helps.
Yeah.
And then the other question I had, oh, and you didn't really get to this, but and this is maybe something you don't have the information for, on the watch list things, there are no estimated costs on there, and I was curious about the estimated costs for those positions.
I think Ms. Jordan's going to take that one.
Oh, sorry, I was looking for
Oh.
questions on Mr. Weiland's part, and then I was gonna go through A and B. So I can answer now, or we can wait?
Oh, I'm sorry, I took A for you.
Oh, that's fine. In terms of, no, because we're short in table A, then I didn't put the costs in for the watch list because I will know more, like, as things progress. Right, so like as the market progresses, as schools, we share our compensation data in January, and then we get it around this time of year, right, and go through that. So I can have those for you on March 9th if we're going to recommend them, but otherwise I just wanted you to know they're on the watch list because the cost will be dependent on when we're able to fill them, if at all. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know we don't have the money to come to you and ask for them. So like, for example, the Forest Edge Associate Principal, would I tell you the estimated cost in March would be very different than what the cost might be a year from now, depending on the market. So if it's information you want, I'm happy to fill it in so that you know for next time. But right now, we're planning just to watch for them and not ask for them on the 9th unless our finances change, which is possible based on the health insurance bids. So it's a long way of saying I didn't fill them in for tonight because I don't have a plan to ask for them, but I'm hearing you that you want them for March 9th, so I will have them.
I'm just curious because I know some of these on here are very desired by the community, and I just wanted to get an idea
Sure.
of where things were at.
Absolutely.
Anna and then Nathan.
Thank you for all this information. I have a question about the 182.5. So I want to make sure I'm understanding. In the revenue table, we're showing a transfer of service exemption in the exact amount, 182.5, of the estimated cost of the school psychologist, which is transfer of service, and the speech and language, which is transfer of service. So are we double counting that because
We're
Is that
counting
what
it on
that
the revenue
means?
side and then on the expense side, so we're counting on both sides.
okay, but when we look at the total revenue increase of 2.93, and then we subtract that from our expenses, the 201,
Oh, no,
we're already accounting for the 182.5, right, in that revenue?
the 182.5 is in the revenue, but it's not in the expenses, so we still have, after table B, we still have 201,000 left.
Right, but wouldn't that 201 already account for the 182.5? Because it's in the revenue.
It's in the revenue, but we haven't subtracted the additional positions yet. So we have 201,000, but we haven't added the positions yet, so we have a 201,000 available. And then we take off what would total $237,000 in additional positions, and that's why we have the 36,000 deficit.
Okay. I just don't, if the 2.9, if we add that up, includes the 182.5,
Yep.
then I guess if we're subtracting it from the 2729,
No, we've just taken the 2.9 minus the 2.7 leaves 200.
right, but in that 2.9 already accounts for this 182.5.
Correct.
So then we should have more than that available for staffing, right? What, am I missing something? Why am I not mathing this correctly? If the revenue tables are accounting for 182.5, then we don't have to fund them again in the expenses side because we're already. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like there's. It's being double counted. I don't know why. My head is not getting,
Yeah.
So I admit, I had that exact same line of thinking that you did as we were going through this earlier, but I think I've rationalized it. So
Okay.
the budget presentation is change from, from this year's condition, right? So we have the 182.5 in additional revenue that's coming in from transfer service.
yeah,
But then we also have the cost of those positions. So it essentially zeroes itself out because it's on both sides of the equation.
okay.
They're new positions, right?
Yeah.
That's why the money's on one side and then it's taken off the other side because we're hiring 2 new people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We're not hiring them until, well, we might hire part of them earlier, but it's for next year.
Okay. Okay, so it's not, there's not just a magical math error of $182,000.
I wish there was. I was hoping. I was hoping.
Okay, I think I've gotten it now. Okay. In my head, I was like, well, we've accounted for it already on the revenue side. We don't have to subtract it out.
To
But
be honest, it might be my fault in the way I projected. When I did it out over there, when we were doing the work session,
Yeah.
I might have just kind of done it that way and just negated it out. But here I thought, well, I
Sure.
should show it on the revenue and then show it
Sure,
on the
okay,
expenses.
now, okay, I get it. Okay, that was my one question,
Okay.
at least at this point. So I'll let other people ask their questions.
Yeah, I always appreciate this. Thanks, Andy and Gina. This might be included in here, and it's just in other words that maybe didn't stick in my head. But when you look at the 8 folks that are retired and the 2.4 folks that have resigned, so they potentially could be, if they're a retirement, at a higher salary than the new people that you're going to hire in. Where do you account for kind of the delta between the two?
Honestly, it's a fair point. We haven't accounted for that at this point in time, just because we haven't hired the replacements. And so while we could anticipate that, I can also tell you it hasn't always happened.
Okay, so you don't you don't budget at midpoint or anything like that of the range or where that might be at? So you wait until you get the approval to hire, then you hire them, then you put the dollar amount into the budget.
And then we redo the whole budget based on what actuals are. And
Okay.
so since this is like the first time we're doing a preliminary estimated budget,
But theoretically,
we'll come back
though-
again.
But theoretically, though, you should get some headroom out of like a lower cost position when you hire that as a backfill, which in some level should be able to allow you to hire deeper down into your table if you so choose, right?
Yeah, I mean, we also have a $36,000 deficit that we have to overcome first,
I
so
would assume over 10.4 FTE, you'd make a lot more than 36,000.
I hope so. Yeah, I think the
yet,
idea
but you
is,
recoup.
at this point in time, to not do anything more than we need to until some of
Okay.
these other things kind of play themselves out.
And then last question, if I may, then every one of these positions is vetted and fully needed, correct? So we're planning on what's in Table A we're approving that those are to be backfilled this coming fall. Is that right?
Table A is the,
Or excuse me, I have the wrong one. That's the retirements. But you're going to do a direct backfill of all those positions, is what I guess I'm ultimately asking.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, the one thing that I do just want to point out though with our salary schedule is that because you can go to the top in 11 years, and then now we added that step 20, right? And we are a destination district for experienced teachers. So that's why I do appreciate that we don't anticipate savings because we often do hire at the top because experienced teachers just tend to be more attractive, not across the board, right? But and so I have learned that over time to be very cautious about that, and that's different than other districts that might have like a 30-step schedule, that we have more compression. And we knew when we started that would mean fewer turnover savings, but it also lets us recruit very experienced teachers to our district. And then also we're just starting to get resignations. And so we do tend to have more resignations for teachers within the first 5 years of the profession, and that research shows is true across the country. And we don't always replace those teachers with newer teachers. And so because we do tend to hire more veteran teachers in our district, which is a testament to our district. So what we do when we work with Andy's department, Mr. Weiland's department, is that when we do hiring at a certain threshold of maybe 3, 4, 5 positions, is that they do the budget again, and then we see where we are. And we keep doing that through the summer, so that if we do, and we have done in the past where we've come to you and said, can we have authority to hire this position in June or July? Should we have the budget to support that? So I'm just very appreciative of Mr. Weiland's department, and particularly Karen Newton, because she is doing that continuously every week, starting in April when we're hiring, just to keep an eye on where we are in the budget. And I'm just grateful that my counterparts will talk about in other districts that they have to be very cognizant of who they hire and what those teachers cost, where we have just been able to hire the best teacher based on the process, because we do continuously monitor the budget. And I think that is where the compression helps us, that we don't have to count on those savings. So I just want everyone to understand that, because we may come back at the March 9th meeting and say that, could we have the authority to hire this position later, should our hiring trend be that we are seeing much more turnover savings. And then we also have to build in that 2.63%, which does cut into some of those turnover savings as well, if that's where the board lands in negotiations. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. It's always good to hear that the process supports the outcome. And so sometimes when you look at like the big puts and takes and then kind of the intent, some of that fidelity gets lost. And so the discussion is super helpful. Thank you.
Well, that's also important too, because sometimes knowing that we have the money in September isn't helpful because student schedules are already set and it's hard to add a classroom teacher or a music teacher midstream. So I appreciate the thought as well.
Let's go Mary and then Caleb.
Thank you. So Andy, I know we've talked about this and the some sufficient versus, yeah, right. He knows where I'm going. All right. So the special education budget allocation, on here, currently you're projecting 40.5.
Correct.
Now, I thought the last time we met, it was actually projected to be lower. I thought we were talking about potentially as low as 35 to 37.
Yeah, so fair point. DPI has been anticipating 35% for this year rather than 42%. They always go low because they need to make sure that they don't run out of money as they kind of go through the year and things change. We've been monitoring the expenses of all 421 districts, and it's kind of stabilized at a particular number, and then it's simply a math problem. This is how much money they have divided by these costs. Those cost numbers have seemed to have stabilized. There's couple large districts that have a large impact on that, and we believe we have that information now. So we're at 38.56, so we're feeling pretty good with a degree of significance that that's going to be the number this year. So now, again, if the legislature and the governor do something different, then we think we'll get to 42% this year. Next year, not because that conversation hadn't happened when we were doing these projections yet, those conversations that kind of started a week ago or so. We anticipated with the additional costs, based on what the numbers, the increases in costs this last year and projecting those forward next year, we kind of got to about a 40.5% is kind of where we think things will land for next year, assuming the legislature doesn't do anything. So I think DPI may have gone a little bit lower than they normally do. They usually go 1.5%, but it appears that they went about 2.5% lower this year than what the numbers will actually be based on the information that we have. So we're I work with a gentleman who has basically the data from DPI and can calculate these things. So
let me just see if I tracked, because I'm not sure I did.
Yep.
I heard you say that the current projection was 38.56.
Yep.
56. But we're going with 40.5.
that's for next year.
For next year, okay. All right.
38.56
So the
is this year.
This year. That's where I was missing it.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Caleb?
It feels like sometimes you're shouting into the void when you talk about special education funding. But I'm going to shout into the void a little bit and just point out that when you look at the needs, right? We have more and more needs in this area. And the state funding for this continues to fall short even of the 42% that they promised. And I think it's important to point out we're talking 42%, right? Which is 42%. It's less than 50. And even next year, if it was 45%, it's still less than 50% of the expense. And this is not a need that's going to go away. And it's just really difficult for school districts because we want to provide, this district, we want to provide the best education we can for all of our students, give them the best opportunities in the classroom, in the schools, and it really puts us and all school districts in a really difficult position. And again, when you're looking at the list of staff and needs we have, there's more need in this area, and will continue to be more need in this area. So that's just my shouting into the void bit. But I related to that, in looking at potential revenue sources or costs and all of this. Right now, we're looking at in the health insurance increase, right? And the GHC initial proposal was a 12.9% increase, although we're trying to figure out ways to maybe pare that back a bit. If we were to, if something, magical happens and we get a much better increase, it's going to increase, but maybe it's not going to increase by 13%. Would that be a potential source? How much could we count on that as a potential source of added revenue to maybe get at the $36,000 we're short, as well as potentially start to look down that watch list and think about maybe one or two of those positions? Is that a possibility if we get a better bid?
Absolutely. A percent would be over that amount real quick. So and we could look at the watch list, that type of thing, fairly quickly. So, absolutely. And like I said, follow the conversations that are going on in Madison, and if you look at those, I think there's something that's going to come out of that as well. So, can't count on that yet, but I think there's going to be some flexibility.
You're talking about the conversations about the special education funding and all the debate about the 300-year or the 400-year veto and.
The legislature seems to have given up the requirement that the 400-year veto go away, so that's safe for this next year. But it seems like we're down to what method of tax relief we're going to provide and how much, and then the legislature wants to give everybody a check, and the governor's not thinking that is the best move, that there might be other ways to provide revenue to school districts that then would provide lower property taxes. So I think that's going to get worked out at some point in time based on me reading the tea leaves and trying to see what's going on. So I think just pay attention this week and we'll see where it goes.
And I'll just add to what you just said, right, is that we're still talking in the context of the state having a significant budget surplus.
Absolutely.
At this point in time, right?
Yep.
It's significant.
That's why the conversations are happening, right? Is there is a significant surplus, more than was projected even a few months ago.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Anna.
I know this question was asked and there wasn't necessarily an answer to all of it, but I guess I am curious if we do know what the financial impact of the vocal music 0.25 FTE would be.
So it depends what we do for wages, but I'm estimating 25,000.
And this would basically take a current staff person who is at less than a full-time and allowing them to increase to a full-time position? I mean, is that kind of the staffing situation we have with our vocal staff?
Well, there may be other ways to do this. The way that's been proposed is that the person is already 1.0 FTE, but is a shared staff between RCI and OMS. So the request would be to be at OMS full-time, and then we'd have that 0.25 at RCI that we would have to fill, which could be a challenge depending on if other staff are interested in that or not. But the students just completed course preferences and requests for next year, so we are meeting to look at those. So there may be other things on the watch list depending on where the numbers look at. We have, just a foreshadow, we have a lot of interest in German, which is wonderful. So looking at that, and high school, I give high school administration and student services staff a lot of credit because I am trying to understand that high school matrix of all the requests and where we are. And so we are meeting with them later in the week as well to see what courses we have that students are interested in, and then maybe what courses we have that they're not as interested in, to see if we can do any reallocations, especially like for American Sign Language. So this is definitely a work in progress. When I first got here, we would do staffing at the end of April. But now, just given the competitive market, we're doing it sooner and sooner. So there may be other things on the watch list depending on those course selections and preferences. So stay tuned for that.
Are we now asking questions on the staffing summary, or do you still have a presentation regarding that?
I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. Recognizing that this is, of course, a big picture preliminary budget estimate, and that things are subject to change. But, to Caleb's point, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of negotiation potential there. So a couple of questions are 0.81 FTE is a very unusual number, and I'm wondering, that's for the special education assistant K4. Why 0.81?
So at K6, we hire our education assistants for the student day.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 0.81.
Okay. Very
So
good.
that is our typical FTE for our ed assistants K6, and it's 0.88 for ed assistants 712.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you. And then obviously there is a need for a school psychologist, early childhood. I'm wondering, do we need a full FTE for that position?
So I asked the same question. I'm looking at, and Dr. Widensee can be more specific about this. But if you look at the detailed rationale with the data, right, that they're covering 7 sites plus the birth to 3, and the screenings that were required by law to do in terms of child find, and then just the number of IEPs that people need to facilitate. And remember, because they're early childhood in 4K, it's often the first IEP process that families have had to go through, so those tend to take longer as well. And so just looking at the numbers and our historical trend the last 4 years, that Dr. Widensee and her team feel really confident that we can support a 1.0. And I would say from a recruitment process, school psychologists are very competitive right now. And so it's been difficult for us to find school psychologists that are interested in less than full-time. And I would also say that if we find that it isn't a full-time FTE, I guarantee that there could be additional support at the elementary level in terms of just the needs that we're seeing with move-ins, as you can see from this. So this is also where we are right now, but that doesn't mean where we will be, at this time next year.
Okay, thank you.
But I want we did have a lot of discussion around that because we wanted to feel really confident in that request from you.
Understood and appreciated. And I would second the request to have an estimated cost on the watch list, because I think that that helps us as a board to kind of think critically through, approving Table A in the context of what other options there are. And then one last question I had was, I know we talked about this, the recruitment and retention specialist is also not on the watch list.
So that is a position that's already in the budget because we had filled that last year, and so we do have a vacancy, and that is posted. So we went through the process the first time, and the candidate we were most interested in declined the position due to salary. So we're back to the drawing board on that, because we have to be fair to our internal equity for our staff. So, but we have a bigger pool than we had last time, so we're just starting to go through those applicants now.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Caleb, back to you.
So I did forget one of my questions, and this was back to the expenses side. I know we've had conversations about with like roofing replacements and some of those plans about potentially expanding our solar panel and using that as a potential way to increase our renewable energy footprint. What kind of impact could that potentially, would it and could it potentially have on the increase that we're seeing in the costs for electricity? And I mean, that's not going to touch natural gas, obviously, but like if electricity costs are going up, and they are, if we're able to do some of that, you know, and obviously there's a, you know, it takes a while to see a return on investment, but would that have an impact potentially on our electricity costs?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the payback on that. It's a number 20 grand, you know, is in the back of my head with the new arrays. The one array won't be in until probably toward the end of August. The first one would be in July or something like that. So it'd be pretty close to the front of the fiscal year. So yeah, it should have an impact. I'd need to kind of think that through a little bit too, but I think that will have a positive impact on us. The natural gas, like you said, was significant this year. We're shipping so much of our liquefied natural gas overseas that these pipelines have allowed that to happen, and it's a global market. So I think you're going to see this continue. Not only that, but data centers are not wanting to impact electrical prices and electrical generation, so they're starting to think about putting generation on site using natural gas. So there's some impact there.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we will move on. So this is an informational item for tonight, so we'll come back on March 9th and consider approving Table A, I guess, and always options for further discussion at that time. So, all right, we will move on now to our visioning and strategic planning update.
Well, thank you. What we really want to share tonight is we have some mid-year data to update the board with, and Dr. Tanner's going to come up and take care of that. And as you can see from the numbers in front of you, it's good news.
This will be very brief, both because of the amount of work being done tonight and also just because it's a mid-year update, so it is kind of brief. The slide that you see before you, the 53.6% is what we had in the fall. So right when students come back to school, we do a variety of assessments. And so this was basically the STAR test proficiency on reading that happened in the fall. And so we did a mid-year update. And in January is another testing window. And we are adjusting this year to using AimsWeb Plus in some grades because that was mandated by Act 20. And so we are combining that in the lower grades, grades 2 through 4 for that. And then we're using STAR for grades 5 through 8. And so when you combine those, the proficiency rate in January is at 65.6%. This is the graph that I showed you last fall, or in the fall. And so this was a comparison of the forward and STAR test data. So the two lines there, the blue one is the STAR state proficiency benchmark, and the green one is the forward test reading proficiency. We like these to be really well aligned, and they're, not terribly well aligned. They're getting there. But we have one update to this, which is that we now have one additional data point. So this is the mid-year one. So we've added one. The forward exam is taken in the spring, and we don't get the results until summer. So we don't know where that green line is yet. Hopefully it will continue tracking along with the blue line and will go up as well. And we'll update you on that in the summer or next fall, like in August when we're looking at our annual goals for the following year. But the upshot of it is that the percentage has increased. This is a demographic comparison of, so you can kind of take a look at students who are in some of our Elevate groups, which is students who are not proficient, but who are in one of the categories of being Black, Hispanic, having an access score of less than 6 because they're multilingual, or who access IEPs. So this is just, we have trend data, but it's very complicated to show briefly in a graph like this. So if you're interested, I'm happy to show it to you, but it was hard to read. And so this is just an overview of the comparison, showing that we do still have gaps in the areas that we have traditionally had them. And we are, pursuing closing those gaps. That's part of the strategies we're using with our focus on instructional clarity and our focus on using PLCs while specifically paying attention to the opportunity gaps that exist. That's basically it. So it's just a little mid-year update for you, but I'm happy to take any questions that you have about this at this time.
Sorry, I always have to ask data questions. So back to the blue-green line, that one, please. So the January 2026, the other mid-year tests, they're not shown there?
No, we just did these. The past one was a year by year. We didn't do mid-year data on those.
So we don't have the mid-year
Well,
data.
I could go back and look at them. That it just isn't what we used. I was using the chart that we used in the fall that showed the annual data for comparison. There was another line in here too, just because we were looking at when we had switched our data points. So this was simplified to show year by year, but we could, if you wanted to, we could look at mid-years for those past years as well.
I'm just interested because it's the same cohort, right? That at the start of the year in the fall, if I'm reading it correctly, the 24-25. No, that couldn't be the same cohort.
So it's the 24-25 school year is the end of, well, we actually counted that one as the fall one. So I probably need to relabel these a little better, but
Okay.
yeah, so that was fall of 2025. So 24-25 school year into the fall of 2025 as the goal.
Got it. So then that is the same cohort. If
Yeah.
it's the fall 25 and then January 26, it's the same cohort. So I'm
Yeah.
just kind of curious to know if the mid-year is consistently higher. I mean, it looks very impressive.
Yeah, I'd say the mid-year, this is off the top of my head, the mid-year is consistently higher. It actually plateaus a little bit toward the end of the year, and we don't know quite whether that's testing fatigue at the end of the year or whether you got to keep in mind that like a student, in order to stay at the same level on the percentile, has to actually increase, because as the school year goes, the expectations for the student go up. So you might see students who look like they're plateauing, like they didn't gain proficiency. In actuality, they've grown. It's just that the expectations grow throughout the year as well. So generally, it goes up in more from fall to winter than it does from winter to spring. So you'll probably see a little bit of a plateau if past years continue that way.
Got it. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you for this update. You mentioned that showing the trending for the demographic data would be difficult to interpret or read, but I guess, is there a sense of whether those percentages are less than or greater than what they were. I guess I'm curious if you have an answer on whether that's remaining static with what that gap is, if we're seeing any changes up or down in that. Because I know as a district, we're working hard to eliminate those and reduce those. So just curious to see if you've got anything that might shed some light on whether or not, again, those are static or showing some increase or decline.
Yeah, in general, they are, well, they're kind of static-ish in most of the cases for the differences. We did have moves for our IEP students. They all, from fall to winter, the number of students, the proficiency rates went up. So we had fewer students far below. There's like six different categories when it's graded out this way. But in general, IEP students, fewer students were not proficient, more were proficient, which is good. Male and female, it was basically the same. And then the students who are multilingual learners, this is kind of a difficult one, but the same number of students were proficient, but the students who were below proficient, which granted is most of them, and there's a reason why, it's because when you're an English language learner and then you become proficient, you're no longer considered an English language learner. And so we have to do some real interesting like tracking of the student over time. But what's kind of cool is the students who are still labeled as not proficient in their English language learners, the number of that are not proficient hasn't changed, but all of their scores have gone up. So like if you take a look at the categories below not proficient, like, like very low, mid, and almost there, it's a lot more who are like almost there than very low. So there's definitely growth happening. It's just growth coming from a less English proficient moving towards proficiency. But like I said, this is actually measuring the percent proficient. And so everybody's grown, but we haven't necessarily jumped over to the proficient level. And when we do that, obviously, we then have to track them differently because of that.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Tanner.
Yep, thank
Good
you.
news. All right. District highlights.
Oh, and we have so many good ones. So we love our crossing guards. And last week was National Crossing Guard Week, and everybody at the district office had an opportunity to go out and visit with a crossing guard or two and hand out a gift to acknowledge our gratitude. I mean, they know the kids by name, and they are there not only to keep them safe, but also to be somebody who says hello on the way to school. And those things make a difference for people, so thank you. And next week is School Social Worker Week, and we wanted to make sure we talked about it today so that it wasn't old news when we meet again on March 9th, because this team is very important to our students' success, and they make a lot of things happen for our students and for their families, and they're critical members of the district team, so many thanks to them. And then it's also coming up is March 2nd, SEL Day, Social Emotional Learning Day. And we have two really outstanding social emotional learning coaches, Betsy Delzer and Michelle Kretschmann, who really put all they have into working with our staff to support our students on integrating the building of these skills into their day in, day out experiences. Fun from scratch cooking in the OST kitchens. So our students at the middle school were treated to a new dish, buttered chicken and curried potatoes. A huge thanks to our amazing school nutrition team member, Tammy, for working so hard to make this dish from scratch. So we love how our team is continually finding ways to offer fun and healthy meal choices to our students. Great things are happening in our school nutrition program, and exciting things are on the horizon, so stay tuned. Dinner and a book. Oh, this was a fun event. I got to be a guest reader and realized that when I was sitting in a second grade classroom, that it had indeed been 50 years since I had sat in my own second grade classroom. And the kids, you know, they did the math pretty quickly, so that wasn't hard for them. But it was a realization for me. So this is a wonderful event. Literacy, community, connection. Families gathered, they enjoyed dinner together, and then they moved through a series of classrooms and listened to stories read by career-focused members of our community. Mine were all about teachers and how wonderful teachers are. So the highlight of the night, after that, every student had the opportunity to select a book of their own choice to take home and add to their personal library. So it's a pretty great night, and many thanks to all of the readers who were there. Forest Edge is a really cool buddy partnership. This is Miss Jakey's kindergartners. They were thrilled to share their weather stories with the 5th grade buddies in Miss Hoppy's class. We love this special partnership because it offers the younger students the opportunity to interact with and learn from older student mentors. Pretty cool. And speaking of cool, congratulations to our Netherwood Knoll Elementary students, Natalie, Marin, Blake, Jack, and Graham, whose artwork is currently on display at the Commonwealth Gallery in Madison for the Regional Youth Art Month show. 3 of these students' works will move on to the state show for the month of March. Great work, artists. And then Prairie View, they celebrated their 6th annual Day of Play on Friday, February 6th. This special day highlighted unstructured playtime, giving students the chance to connect with one another, spark their imaginations through extended creative play, and honestly practice the social emotional learning skills that they are learning in the classroom also. RCI, they had a packed house at their RCI band and orchestra concerts recently. So congratulations to the student musicians on this fantastic performance. We love hearing you play. RCI also had a fun library day. I love the smiles on their faces. The school library is the place to be this February. They're celebrating the Love Your Library Month by recommending their favorite books to others, participating in daily trivia, and checking out the awesome book displays. So we love that you love books. This is the best. Extra special thanks to our phenomenal school library team for creating such a fun, creative, and welcoming environment. And then our RCI students, Harper and Everett, participated in the Scripps Regional Spelling Bee in Stoughton. Your hard work is recognized, and we're really proud of you. I am sure they practiced like crazy to get that far in the spelling bee. Great work, you guys. Congrats to our choir students from the Oregon Middle School who recently attended the Badger Conference 7th grade choir workshop. They joined over 150 students from DeForest, Waunakee, Portage, and McFarland to work with Mike Ross, Artistic Director of Madison Youth Choirs. It's a full day of learning from each other, building community, and joyful singing. An 8th grade band, they recently traveled to UW-Madison to work with Dr. Corey Pompey, Associate Director of Bands. In addition, they worked in sectionals with current music education students, including Oregon alum Emmett Marson. How cool. So what a great musical adventure for our kids. And then, of course, as was mentioned earlier tonight, the amazing performances in Kiss Me Kate. So congratulations to the cast of this musical on a fantastic weekend of performances. We love the singing, the dancing, the orchestra music, set design, lighting features, and the inclusive student production. We enjoyed every second of it, and we're really proud of you. And OHS students in the community, they're in and out and about, especially at Beehive. So our OHS student council members recently hosted a special bingo night that residents loved. And then our Oregon German Club recently made cards and delivered them to Beehive. So that's really, really great. Thank you, everybody, for all that hard work, bringing a little bit of joy to the Beehive. And we're thrilled to announce that the ensemble has been selected to perform at the Janesville Performing Arts Center Jazz Showcase. It's a really big honor. The concert will feature OHS alongside 2 other outstanding area high school jazz ensembles. And the date is Sunday, March 1st from 2 to 5 at the Janesville Performing Arts Center. The group will also travel to UW Wisconsin Platteville Jazz Festival this Friday. So obviously, they're keeping pretty busy, demonstrating their talents. And so did our high school swim team. They had an amazing season. They were conference champions, set a record 8 events to the state tournament this past weekend. Wow. Overall, the team scored 15 points to take 27th at the state meet and set a new school record in the 400-yard freestyle relay. If you watch them meet at all, you just know how much talent there is in the state. So to be there among the very best is an incredible accomplishment. Super proud of this inclusive, positive team. Congratulations, everybody. And they're going to be on the podcast next week. And then our cheer team, they took second at state this past weekend in Green Bay. And this was Division I, everybody. So they had really incredible competition, and they placed second in the state. So we love your enthusiasm. Super proud of you. And here are the wrestlers. Congratulations to the wrestlers who are headed to the state tournament. We have Evan, Logan, Cade, and Caden and on the boys' team, and Olivia on the girls' team. Way to go, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do. And then, of course, the last podcast was with the amazing, talented cast of Kiss Me, Kate.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Bergstrom. So that brings us to our closing, our future agenda. So we will be back together on March 9th. We'll do part 2 of our staffing that we started tonight. We have a buildings and grounds and capital maintenance item on the agenda and HR goal report. I will note for board members that we are entertaining canceling the second meeting in March. Typically, some years, the second meeting in March does fall on the spring break, so we don't hold that meeting. This year that is not the case, but we don't have any current agenda topics. So that is being considered, and we would finalize that at our March 9th meeting. So just letting you all know for planning in case that's an item. So checkout, anything for checkout? Leslie?
So I just wanted to say that, like, it's always interesting doing the preliminary staffing plan, because there's always that tension, right? Because we want to be able to give as much as possible, but there's always that finite amount of finances to have. And I thought about this for a second afterwards, was that, like, earlier tonight I was at the visioning meeting, and we were talking about, you know, the growth and plans for the district in years forward, right? And one of the things that got brought up by Leslie was that how fortunate we are to be in the place that we are at right now, because many of the districts in other parts of Wisconsin are actually closing schools. And we are just concerned about making sure we can fill that. What's that next position we want to be able to bring on, and what next service can we give to our students? So I feel really fortunate, and I just wanted to share that.
Any other items for checkout? All right, Andy, get your roll call pen ready. So I will.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to read it. So, so we'll consider going into adjourning to closed session for item G1 as provided under Wisconsin Statutes 19.851E, and that is discussions regarding negotiating the SRO agreement for the 2026-2028 school years pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E. Is there a motion to go into closed session as described?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Anna. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Lakuta. Andy, please call the roll.
Ms. Biziak,
Yes.
Dr. Bush. Yes. Mr. Hensel.
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta.
Yes.
Ms. Wright? Yes. And Mr. Pankratz, sorry.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Andy, for being our Katie tonight. We're at 8:14. So we are now in closed session. I do not anticipate, I know that we will not come back into open session tonight, so we will adjourn from closed. We'll take a 5-minute recess and be back. Thank you.
Good. I really think